What's up, Stephen King fans? Anchorpete here, and I am with Danny and Athena, two of the biggest Stephen King fans I know. And you know what time it is? It is time to talk about The Stand. We just watched episode 7, the walk, right?
The Walk.
The Walk. And now we are going to walk right into our review. So, Danny and Athena, how are you guys doing tonight?
Very well, very well.
We're good. We're doing pretty well.
Okay. So I think you guys will agree that this episode was probably as similar to the book as any of the episodes have been so far.
Yes.
And that like there were lines of dialogue that were like, those are the exact lines of dialogue in the book. Yeah. So Athena, did that make you happy? Were there any things that you wish they kind of changed?
Well, it was almost exactly like the book, except for some small spots. Again, I felt like, and I might have felt like this, I think Danny felt like this during the miniseries, that it wasn't as exciting as, the other episodes. There wasn't a lot of, pizzazz sort of in it. So I don't know if I enjoyed it because I enjoy all the episodes somewhat, but I don't know if this was like one of my favorites. It's moving towards the climax, but I'm not sure it was.
This is really a very transitional episode because like episode 6 literally ends with a bang, the explosion that kills Nick. And then obviously for those of you who read the book, spoilers, the conclusion ends in like the big conclusion ends in Las Vegas. So this is like that transition episode where you're going from Colorado to Vegas. I actually rewatched the scene in Clerks 2. I don't know if you saw that, where he's like making fun of Lord of the Rings, and he's like, all they do is walk in those movies. And I thought, for somebody who's coming into this show cold, who hasn't read the book, which is a lot of people, Stephen King's appeal is not just people who've read the book. There are plenty of people who grew up on Stephen King movies and know him from there. I don't know if this is going to be a favorite episode of people who didn't read the book. I think if you read the book and if you're a huge fan of the book, you might enjoy this more because you know this journey. You've been on this journey before, in a way. So I didn't hate this episode. There's parts of this episode, like every episode, that I didn't love. Again, just like episode 6, it was mainly in the first 5 minutes. But then after that, I think it started to get a little bit better. And I enjoyed, like you said, Pete, I enjoyed the dialogue on the road. I thought that was good. I thought you got to know these characters a little bit more. I liked the way they interacted. I liked
Stu a little bit more, a lot more actually.
Yeah, a little bit. I thought, considering this episode was probably as close as the show's gotten to the book, I thought it was a decent episode with some questionable things throughout as usual. But overall, kind of a middle of the road episode for me. Yeah.
Well, you know what? Let's just get right into spoilers then. And so I would say, Athena, like, it's interesting that you said that there wasn't a lot of pizzazz to this episode, because if you look at it, there's like major beats that happen in this episode, right? Like, first off, spoilers, we have Harold's death, right? And
which we were expecting, and it happened the way it happened again.
I really liked that scene, like you said, because Harold, and we've made no qualms about this, we've not hid this at all. Owen Teague and his portrayal of Harold has been our favorite part of the show so far. And Harold as a character, both in the book and in this series, was one of my favorite characters. And I thought that they really did a great character arc for him, with his kind of a tragic ending where he finally feels like he's on the way to, he even says that really, nasty thing to Nadine where he's like, I'm promised a woman who's going to make you look like a potato sack. And, he finally feels like he's going to get that, like, he's going to be like acknowledged for all of his hard work. And of course, it's all a trap, and he ends up, dead. But he gets that redemption at the end, and I like that, because to me, Harold is like a consummate tragic figure, just manipulated at every end, with what he feels are good intentions, even though we kind of know they're not really. So for him to have that kind of a redemption at the end where he gets to write the apology, I really like that. And I thought, again, a great little ending for Owen Teague in this series, who carried the series for 7 episodes. So
yeah. The MVP.
He definitely was, and it's a shame that we're not going to see any more of him. The scene around the bed with Mother Abigail, that was almost exact, with the exception of like Larry had a woman in the other parts, but sending them away, and Franny being like, no, don't go. That was pretty much the same. So I was like, okay, let's move on. And the Nadine making love to Flagg, that was surreal, because I think they did that well. The like, sometimes they're in the desert, sometimes they're in his bed type thing. I think they that was a good choice, filmmaking choice, because it really was like, she's delusional, as is everybody. They're like totally fooled by Flagg. So
Alexander Skarsgard, he met his contractual obligation to show his bare ass. I after watching True Blood with Athena, I could pretty much draw his ass from memory. And I got to see it again.
Very happy to see his ass.
Yeah,
I'm sure you were.
It's funny. Like Sherry, she didn't even know we were recording this today. This is kind of an impromptu thing, just that we're doing it, the 3 of us right now. But like when I was watching it last night with her, she like kind of like squealed when we saw Randall Flagg's butt, motioning up and down. Yeah,
women everywhere appreciate it.
Yeah. So, but let me ask you this though: do you guys? To me, I feel like they've never really captured how scary the Man in Black is in this, or Randall Flagg is in this show. Like, they've made him do a couple of things where like his eyes, change colors and stuff, or he's floating. But in the book, there's always that feeling of just looking at him will make people lose their minds sometimes, right? And I personally like it when Nadine is like, she's almost like destroyed mentally just being with him. And to me, I kind of like that, because he's almost like an elemental force. He's like something beyond human. And I know that you guys kind of felt differently though, right? Like you were kind of okay with the way they handled that.
Oh, well, I did want him to turn into a monster, because otherwise who wouldn't be with Alexander Skarsgård? Like there was no reason not to be. But
I think that was part of my fear with the casting of Alexander Skarsgård, is he's so goddamn good looking that like it's going to be hard to make him scary enough to not want, if you're a woman, who's especially a character like Nadine, that you're on the pathway to him and you want him. In the 94 miniseries, Jamie Sheridan was kind of like this kind of like rugged cowboy looking guy.
And he was a scary looking guy.
He was he had like a weirdness to him to begin with. So I thought that they handled that monstrous part a little bit better than they did here. Here it was just that like one scene. But again, I really liked how it ended up with Nadine, where like at first I thought, oh, are they really just not going to have her go crazy here? Are they just going to have her be subservient to him? And then at the end, I really liked the way that they showed her madness coming out. And I thought they handled that well. And I thought it was a good lead in.
They showed a little madness before that too. Just like they showed her doubt a little bit. And then he would like bring her back, to to like smile and be okay. So
Mhm.
they subtly did that. So that ending, just like her welcoming Larry, I did feel like Larry didn't look shocked enough. I mean, they looked a little shocked, but I feel like they should have looked a little more shocked. I like the belly and the ghastly face and everything, but
Yeah.
Lloyd picking them up in the limo, I mean, he was a little bit better because he wasn't so out there, Lloyd. He was a little more subdued, but like he was just like, what are you guys doing? Like,
Yeah. I mean, there was that like touch of them driving past Caesar's and having them like recarve Caesar's face with Flagg's face, where I kind of just at that point I was just like, that was
Yeah.
unnecessary. Like that just felt kind of like tacked on for the sake of it. But
I was
Keep going. Keep going.
I was happy that there was like, I didn't see any like sex scenes through Vegas. Like I was
yeah,
happy
I mean,
about that.
it still doesn't look like civilization. I mean, I think we should mention quickly. I mean, the episode is called The Walk, and we haven't really talked about the walk. So for those who haven't read the book, Mother Abigail sends Larry, Stu,
Ray.
Ray, Ray and Glenn on a basically a quest to Vegas with no food, no water, and says you have to walk there, and one of you isn't going to make it. And they get to this. First of all, they pass a sign that says it's like a biblical quote that says, "Lamb's reward is laughter of is the laughter of children." And somebody drew like a spray painted S in front of laughter. So it said the lamb's reward is slaughter of children, which I thought was really funny for some reason.
But did you notice? I mean, and this is Mother Abigail speaking cryptically. She said one of you wasn't going to finish the journey, which made you think that one of them is going to die. But you know, we'll save for later what that really means.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
Oh yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, I don't think we should spoil episodes in advance.
We'll mention it when it comes up.
Right.
Just remember that one of them is
I really enjoyed the walking part of this episode, though. I thought while if you're tuning into this show, and this has been a complaint that I hear on social media, on Twitter, and I totally get why it's a complaint, is that this show isn't scary. It's Stephen King, but there's no scares in this series. And this episode doesn't really have scares, for me at least, until that last literal scene of the episode. But I enjoyed the walk because to me, why I love the book so much was the characters. Like you spend 1,100 pages with these characters, and I felt this was one of the first episodes that just kind of shows the characters being themselves and having those like little interactions with each other. And I like that a lot. Like getting to see, Larry be apprehensive about leaving Stu, and Stu saying, what are you going to do? Carrying me to Vegas on your back. Glenn, being the resident philosopher, Ray finally got some good screen time in this episode, which was nice. Like, I even liked that Ray didn't want to give Harold's dead corpse the time of day, because she was like, he backstabbed us. He tried to kill everybody. Like, who gives a crap about his corpse? And Larry was like, well, I wouldn't have made it to Boulder without Harold. So like, he felt like even though Harold had done like the ultimate wrong, he owed him something, which I thought was really interesting. So yeah, I kind of like that part of the episode. And I mean, do we want to talk about what happens to Stu? I mean,
sure. Yeah. That scene was kind of interesting to watch because there's this huge rift in the road, right, in the ground, and it was kind of very CGI looking, right? And I knew it was coming. I knew he was going to fall. but it was pretty tense in that moment. You're like, oh, what's going to happen? One of my favorite parts in the book is when Kojak comes back and stays with him. So it was great to see the beginnings of that in this episode.
Yeah.
It was probably, I think you said this before, Danny, that this was or maybe Athena said it. It was the best episode for Stu Redman, right? Like that was, I think James Marsden at his best in this episode in particular. So I like that part.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not a Stu fan. I thought he was fine in episode 1. I thought that was a pretty decent introduction, but then it was like, he just kind of felt like an afterthought for a bunch. But yeah, he was good in this episode, and I look forward to seeing if it follows the book. I won't spoil it, but if it follows the book, I look forward to seeing where that story goes, because they basically leave him to basically die in this ditch.
Yeah.
And they do that.
He's the one.
Yeah, they're assuming he's the one Mother Abigail's talking about. One won't make it, and I think we pretty much covered everything in this episode except for the opening scene, which is once again Ezra Miller just literally. I keep saying literally, but I keep actually meaning it. He's just screeching. Like he doesn't even say, like they don't even say words.
Yeah.
I mean, he does his bumpity bump. He does do the bumpity bump, like I think once or twice when he's on the truck, but that's it.
Why is he wearing that though?
Yeah.
Why is it a jock strap?
Yeah, Sherry was saying because it's so tan, it looks like he's naked. It's really unnerving. He kind of reminds me of like Danny DeVito in Batman Returns wearing the onesies. I get that vibe when he's walking around. And then I don't know if you guys are Deftones fans, but like he always sounds like this one song, Pink Maggot, where like Chino's like screaming like that. This is I can't even do it. It's just so irritating.
Yeah. And again, this is an 1,100 page plus book, and to me, what made it one of the greatest books I ever read was the journey you go on with these characters, and that includes Trash Can Man. You go on a journey with Trash Can Man. You find out everything about this guy's past and the horrible life that he goes through to get to this point, and the show introduces him to us last episode and this episode for 5 minutes at a time. And I have no reason, if I'm not a reader of the book, I have no reason to care whatsoever about this character other than he's this weird guy who masturbates to explosions, wears a jockstrap, and screams really loud. And that's disappointing to me as a fan of the book, because the 94 miniseries did a decent job. They didn't go too like you saw flashbacks. Like Matt Frewer, the actor, would like have flashbacks of his childhood, and like he would see the little kids teasing him. And it's just like, I don't know. I just, again, like I mentioned this last episode, I feel like this is where like the director just has to be like, Ezra, you don't have to screech like that. Rein it in. And I just feel like, Ezra Miller is a big star. Justice League, Flash, obviously, he Perks of Being a Wallflower. And I guess, as a big star, nobody's, and no offense to Vincenzo Natali, the director of this episode, but more people know who Ezra Miller is. And I probably feel like, the director was like, well, it's Ezra Miller. We're going to let them do whatever they want.
Well, I mean, also with the writing, the whole point of Trash Can like going to get that nuclear warhead was because he wanted to prove himself, because they got rid of Trash because he set fire to the airfields. And so he tried to redeem himself by going to get the warhead. And I'm wondering if that's going to, I mean, it seems like it's not going to be a thing.
Yeah.
In the miniseries.
Yeah. Trash had to be a character. If I were the showrunner of The Stand, Trash would have been a character I introduced in episode 1. But who was always just out there on the periphery. He existed. Maybe you saw a flashback here, there or two. Maybe you saw like his little origin story, during and before Captain Trips got really started. And you never saw him with, the Boulder crew. You never saw him on the way to Flagg. He was just on the periphery, existing, blowing stuff up. And eventually by like episode 5 or 6, he can make his way to Flagg. But yeah, like it just feels like introducing him for like 7 total minutes of screen time in episodes 6 and 7. It almost feels like, to be honest, they shouldn't have included that character in the series. They should have just been like, all right, you know what? Maybe we shouldn't do Trash Can Man in 2021. Maybe that type of a character is somebody we don't want to have in this miniseries. And they could have done any other thing. Maybe Nadine. Maybe
Harold.
Yeah, maybe Harold has the ultimate redemption and kind of becomes the Trash Can Man in theory. Maybe Nadine goes crazy and goes and gets the nuclear weapon because she doesn't want to, like these, you could have done, and I'm just spitballing ideas, but like, to me, if this is the way they were going to do Trash Can Man, they shouldn't have done Trash Can Man. I feel like, I just feel like they were like, well, we have to do him. He's a character in the book.
Yeah.
And it just feels so tacked on and wrong. Like everything about that character, like we've had issues with other characters, but they've been close enough to their actual book representations. Trash Can is just completely off. Like it, and to me, it's the worst part of the show so far. And to me, this wasn't a bad episode. He just brings it down.
Yeah, he feels like a character in the book. He feels like a character that is mainly there for plot, right? He's there for this very specific plot point that we will eventually talk about. But it's not so much of following his arc, even though he does have a character arc in the book. But more than any other character, it feels like he's there because the plot needs this specific moment. And so that's the way the show feels too. And they're just letting Ezra Miller go nuts, like you said. I don't know. I guess like he might be the biggest disappointment of a character so far, but that's right up there with Lloyd. Lloyd just really bothers me in this show. But what do you call it?
I just listened to Nat Wolf on the King cast, and he's such a big Stephen King fan. And he was talking about how he wanted to play Lloyd completely like more to the character in the book, which I know you just finished and Athena is rereading. And I don't remember Lloyd being that. One thing he does say that I did like was he felt that Miguel Ferrer was too like he had too much of like he wasn't sniveling enough. He felt that like Lloyd needed to be a really big like follower and loser, and like he needed Flagg. And he said that like that's why he played him the way he plays him, is like he's just like he needs Flagg. Like he was eating rats in jail and anything for Flagg.
Yeah, I like Lloyd in jail. I like the scene with Lloyd in jail. I thought that was perfect.
It just Vegas, aside from Trash, Vegas as a whole is really been a letdown in this show. And I think we kind of all agree with that. There's no semblance of civilization. It feels like Rome under Nero. It's just hedonism everywhere. Sex and violence for the sake of sex and violence. And yeah, I'm not digging Vegas, but we'll see what happens in the next couple episodes, because I'm sure the next episode is going to be very Vegas centric. Yeah. Now that Lloyd and Ray and Glenn, not Lloyd, Larry, Glenn and Ray are in Vegas now with Flagg.
Well, next week's the finale.
No, it's episode 8 next week. Isn't it 9?
9 is the coda. Yeah.
So there's that Stephen King written episode. That's the last episode of the show, right? And then the finale, like Athena said, is this next one coming up, which will be pretty much like the finale of the miniseries too. I'm excited because we're gonna get a little bit more Rat Queen. You guys were all getting excited about Alexander Skarsgard, but I'm starting to find myself more and more attracted to the Rat Queen. I don't know what's up with me. Maybe because she's like a female Brad Dourif, you know. So I don't know what's going on with me.
If you like her, then you gotta check out the last couple Chucky movies because she's the star of those movies. What is it? Cult of Chucky and the one right before, not the remake, not the one that remade him in like 2019.
Child's Play.
The last two, the ones that are done by Don Mancini, who was the original writer. I think it's Cult, and I don't remember shit. I don't remember. It's something of Chucky, but the last two, she's the star of, and she's really good in the movies too. She is her father's daughter.
I just wanted to say, I mean, I know we already spoke about Harold, but when Larry was reading Harold's thing and they went to like Harold's rejection letters and then his lair in Boulder, and they kept going to those places, I just thought that was a really like, well-made part of the script. Just like flashing on the bits and pieces of how Harold got to where he got.
Yes, I agree wholeheartedly. It's a really good point, Athena. I like how like they showed the pieces of the bomb at one point. He said, "I have no regrets," and that's when they were showing the pieces of the bomb. And it kind of reminds me of like kind of a theme that's just going throughout this whole show, which we see at the end credits, where they're always showing the objects of characters, right, in the end credits. And I think that that's a thing that they're trying to capture in this show is like everyone is gone on Earth. Just people have left behind things, and these are the things that are connected to these characters. And so it really gives you that sense of like just there's no one there, everyone's dead. I really like that. And now Harold's gone.
That last scene with Nadine I feel like was the best scene of the episode. Just like I didn't understand why she was looking in the elevator at her beautiful face and everybody was like, but then I did understand when she walked up to greet them and she looked like
a rotting corpse.
Yeah, that was pregnant.
Yeah.
I thought that it's funny because you just brought up the scene with Harold and the flashbacks to his life as he's reading, as Larry's reading the letter, but it's Owen Teague reading it in Harold's voice. That scene and the end with Nadine were my two favorite scenes of this episode. So we'll see what happens. Next episode. I mean, they're in Vegas now, so
yeah, I'm gonna agree with you guys too. I like that end scene with Nadine as well because it got me a little bit more Rat Queen too, so I'm good. Or rat lady, right? Yeah, Rat Lady.
I keep thinking whenever you say Rat Queen, I keep thinking of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and the Rat King.
That is exactly what happens. I'm like, oh, gender swapped Rat King, right? Exactly. That's the end of episode 7 of The Stand. And so we're going to be back next week, most likely on Friday. Thanks for joining us. Of course, you guys keep leaving good comments, so keep doing that. For the Lastercast, on February 1st, we're going to have our episode where we review Horror Noir, which is a documentary about Black cinema. So make sure you are subscribed to the Lastercast, and we will see you guys real soon.